Welcome back. Ministers, just before the break we were talking about, what the government could do, hearing the stories we've heard tonight. What about the idea of something like a road safety authority? The way Gay Byrne got involved with that, maybe something like that with Brezzy at the lead. Would that make a difference? People have suggested that could help.
Well, it's been a suggestion that's been made down through the years, and I always believe that we have an authority, and it is the National Office for Suicide Prevention. And, we have to stick with the plan. I've been hearing for the last year in relation to Germany, Scotland, and, the reach-out strategy that we have in A Vision for Change is exactly the same as those two countries. I think the serious difficulty we have, having looked at it in great detail, is the fact that we don't have a coordinated effort. We have all of these people, and you've interviewed some of them in the piece you did earlier on. We have this NGO sector desperate to help and always there in their own communities, but no coordination. And I think it's the coordination piece that is missing, and we're working on that. For instance, I was at an event in Kinsale last night where they're taking a whole of community approach. Everyone, the shopkeepers, the school teacher, the guards, and as well in Kerry there is a forum which is now being organised by the HSE, and they've been working on it for the last 12 months. And again, it has 27 organisations within the Kerry
let me bring
area
Jim Lees
specifically.
You were nodding when the Minister said coordination.
Yes,
briefly, Jim.
I absolutely agree with the Minister in the sense that we need coordination, we need leadership, and we need a commitment to deliver on the great and the good plans that we already have. We've got reports, we've had the National Office, learned people studying the evidence, but we have something way short of delivery. I'll give you one example. We've placed, and rightly placed, much of the burden of our healthcare system on primary care. But primary care is now being asked to take enormous amounts of stress in so many areas. And we need to support our GPs and their practices. As it is, we've got a project going out called the SCAN project, but it's being rolled out in very few counties and is still not national. We have the national mental health strategy called Vision for Change, which actually hasn't been rolled out, we're told, because the economics didn't support it. But the reality is the strategy needs to be delivered in a way which is both value for money and effective and available. And I don't think that we can deny that people are looking for a place to go, a source of help, and one that isn't stigmatic.
Okay. Minister,
could I just correct one or two things
briefly,
that Jim?
Please,
and I suppose if it's said often enough, then it sort of nearly becomes the truth. We have recently engaged with the Irish College of GPs in relation to training around this whole issue, and we just launched a DVD which is going to every GP in the country in relation to suicide and mental health. We've also rolled out a national counselling services which is available to GPs now for people who come with depression and anxiety, and they can refer them on. So, and as for A Vision for Change, by the way, we have now almost completed the programme of 414 additional posts in the community for A Vision for Change, and we're about to put in 477 this year. So A Vision for Change hasn't stalled in the last 2 years. It's actually is being rolled out.
Okay, Minister, I need to live with that. I want to bring in Martin in the audience, because it's not just young men, teenagers. I mean, the recession is hitting a lot of people. You hit rock bottom as well, Martin, didn't you?
I certainly did. It happened about, just over 2 years ago now. And even before that, things had been going down the tubes, Miriam. And my job was in jeopardy. And it all came to a crashing close 2 years ago. Lost a job, lost a family business, lost my future. I thought my life was finished. I contemplated suicide. Thank God I didn't. I didn't follow it through. The thoughts crossed my mind. I was severely depressed. I suffered several nervous breakdowns, and I ran away from the problem and buried my head in the sand. And it was terrible. I know how do people feel, and there's so many people out there in the same situation. Smothered with debt, and they don't know how to deal with it and run away from the problem instead of confronting it.
And briefly, for people listening, how did you get yourself out of that?
The message that I would have to people is talk. It's better. My dad always said when times were tough, it's better to light a candle than curse the dark. And I'd cursed the dark for years. And I would say to people out there tonight who are watching this, life is wonderful. There's always hope. Live your life and love your life and respect what you've got. It's better to live for something than to die for nothing. And I turned my life around. I've bounced back. I'm studying law in university in NUI Maynooth, and the future looks bright for me. And I'm glad that I didn't.
No, Jim, delighted for you. Brezzy, you wanted to make one last point.
Yeah, I
You
just
made
in
the
terms
effort
of
to come
just
in tonight.
bypassing the politics of it all.
Yes.
I was on the cycle against suicide. I sat there in schools. Girls came up to me, guys came up to me and said, I have a real problem. And in my head, I didn't know what to tell them, where to go or what, because I wasn't cohesive enough. Like we have all these plans, but the reality is the practicalities of it aren't quite there yet, and they need to get there and need to get there fast in places like Donegal and Kerry, because get out there on the ground and go into the schools. When I was speaking in schools, that's when people started opening up. That's where we need the support. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough information to tell them exactly what they needed to do, because that's not my job.
Okay,
Miriam,
listen.
we want to know, people need to know that
One line,
recovery
Jim.
is possible.
Okay.
That if they come and get help, if they speak up, they'll be heard. And that the treatment and the options they're given are effective. Recovery is possible.
Okay, well, listen, Jim, Brezzy, the Minister, Jack in particular, Martin, and all the audience. And listen, for anyone affected by any of the issues we've raised tonight, there are a number of helplines and websites which can be contacted for both immediate and long-term help. The Samaritans, well, they offer a 24-hour listening service, and they can be contacted on 1850 60 90 90 or 0845 790 90 90 if you're in Northern Ireland. Console offers help for anyone bereaved or affected by suicide, and they can be contacted 24 hours a day on 1800 201 890. And those details and more can be found on our website, rt.ie/primetime. Pat.